Hey there, it's Ashley here from the Loopy Lamb, and today I want to show you how to make my mini crochet top hats for my little snowmen friends here. Now, if you haven't made your snowman already, this is my Chillin with my Snowmies no-sew snowman, which is available as an ad-supported free pattern over on my blog, theloopylamb.com, or as a step-by-step video tutorial here on the channel as well. Now, the pattern for both hats is the same. The only difference is the material list that you will use to create your hat. So if you want to make this jumbo plushie size here, then you'll follow the material list that's going to pop up on your screen in a moment for the jumbo snowman top hat. And then if you want to make the mini snowman's hat here, then you're going to follow the list for the mini snowman top hat that will pop up here in a moment. But just as a quick overview, you're going to need your snowman to put your hat on eventually. You'll need 2 colors of yarn. You'll need a crochet hook, some scissors, a little bit of cardboard, which is optional, and I'll talk to you about that during our tutorial. Maybe some glue, stitch marker, and a tape measure and a tapestry needle. So let me clear off my workspace and then we'll get started on working on our mini top hats for our snowmen. So I'll be using different colors in today's tutorial rather than the colors that you see in our samples. So for the black, I'm going to be using this purple, because if I'm using black, you're not going to see what I'm doing. So I'm going to be using black or purple here to substitute for the black, and then I'm going to be using a pink color to substitute for the color that's used for the band on the hat. So to start our mini top hat, we're going to need to create a magic circle. So lay the tail end of your yarn across your palm, wrap it around your fingers, and create a cross like this. While you're holding on to the working end of the yarn, flip your hand over, bringing the yarn across your hand with it, and then pin it down between your ring finger and your pinky finger. Take your crochet hook and insert it under the first strand and over the second. Then use it to pull that second strand out and under the first. Then twist your crochet hook to create a cross in the yarn. Then yarn over and pull through the loop on your hook there. Then you can remove your fingers and pull the yarn tail out of your magic ring, and you're ready to start round 1 of our pattern. If you need to see how to do the magic circle slower, you can either adjust the speed settings here on your video player, or you can watch my video here on the channel that walks you through how to do this much slower. So for round 1, we're going to work 6 single crochets into the magic ring. You're going to hold your yarn tail alongside the yarn in the ring because we're going to crochet over that tail. So we're going to start by inserting our hook into the ring, yarn over, and pull up a loop. You should have 2 loops on your hook. Then we're going to yarn over and pull through both loops. That's your first single crochet completed. Now our pattern says we need to do 6 single crochets into the ring, so we need to do 5 more. Back into the ring, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, and pull through 2. That's your second single crochet completed. And again, into the ring, and pull through 2. And that's your third single crochet. So we'll do our next 3. So I have 6 single crochets, and if you want to double check your count, hold your crochet so your stitches or the top of the stitches are facing upwards, so you see these V's. The yarn on your hook never counts as a stitch, so we're going to start counting with this V here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Your very first stitch is often tighter than the rest, so it's not uncommon for it to kind of curve down to the side, and you may need to tilt your work to find that first stitch. Now that I have my 6 stitches completed, I'm going to hold on to my stitches with one hand, grab the yarn tail from my ring with the other, and pull tight to close the ring. And now we're ready to start round 2. So round 2, we're going to work a single crochet increase into each stitch around, and I'll show you how to do that. So we're going to insert our hook into that very first stitch and single crochet. Then we're going to grab our stitch marker and place it under both loops of that stitch. We're going to use our stitch marker to mark the first stitch of every round and move it up every time we start a new round. So we're going to go back into the same stitch we just worked our single crochet into to do a second single crochet. So back into that same stitch and single crochet a second time. When you see single crochet increase in a pattern, it means that you're working 2 single crochets into the same stitch. So our pattern says we need to work a single crochet increase into each stitch around. So we're just going to continue doing that into each stitch. So into this next stitch, we're going to work 2 single crochets. So there's 1, back into the same stitch, and there's 2. If you'd like to pause your video and work 2 single crochets into each stitch around, at the end of this round, you should have 12 single crochets. I'll meet you back here in just a moment to show you how we're moving into round 3. All right, so we're starting round 3, so we're going to move that stitch marker out of the way. And in our first stitch, we're going to work 1 single crochet. Then we're going to grab our stitch marker and place it under both loops of that stitch. In this next stitch, we're going to work 2 single crochets or a single crochet increase, remembering that those are the same thing. So into the next stitch here, we're going to work 1 single crochet, back into the same stitch, and work a second single crochet. And so what we've just done is a pattern repeat that we're going to be working around this piece. We single crochet into the first stitch and work 2 single crochets into the next. And we're going to do that a total of 6 times around. So we'll do this together again. We're going to work 1 single crochet into the first stitch, and then 2 single crochets into the next. And then again, 1 single crochet into the first stitch, 2 single crochets into the next. So if you'd like to pause your video and repeat that pattern of 1 single crochet into the first stitch, 2 single crochets into the next until the end of the round, I'll meet you back here in just a moment to show you how we move into round 4. At the end of round 3, you should have 18 stitches. All right, we're starting round 4. We're moving our stitch marker out of the way, and we're going to work 1 single crochet into that first stitch. And we'll place our stitch marker. And then we're going to single crochet increase into the next stitch. So here's the first part of that. 1 single crochet, back into the same stitch, and there's our second single crochet. And now we're going to work 1 single crochet into each of the next 2 stitches. So there's 1 and 2. And now we're going to work a single crochet increase into this next stitch. So there's a first, back into the same stitch, and there's our second single crochet. So we've just completed a pattern repeat, and that pattern repeat in the pattern, if you're following along with the written pattern as well, shows 2 single crochets followed by a single crochet increase. So we're going to work 2 single crochets followed by an increase, and we're going to do that until we have 1 stitch remaining. So let's do it again together. 1 single crochet, 2 single crochet, followed by an increase. And again, 1 single crochet, 2 single crochet, followed by a single crochet increase. 1 single crochet, 2 single crochet, followed by an increase. So that's 1, back into the same stitch, and there's 2. And one last time, 1 single crochet, 2 single crochet, followed by an increase. So that's those 2 stitches worked into the same stitch. We have 1 stitch left to be worked, and we're just going to work 1 single crochet into that last stitch. At the end of round 4, you should have 24 stitches. Now at this point, it's a great time to check your gauge if you're matching gauge. And the pattern says that to measure your piece from front loop to front loop across the widest point. So if you are making the mini snowman from front loop to front loop here, it should measure approximately 1.5 inches, which mine does. If you're making the jumbo snowman, it should equal 3.5 inches across at this point. Again, gauge isn't vital for this pattern, but if you've already made your snowman and you matched gauge there, this will help ensure that your hat fits your snowman as you expect it to. Now, in the hats, the top of the hat is meant to be flat. I find that when you're using the blanket yarn, it doesn't want to stay as flat as it could. Whereas when I used the smaller weight acrylic yarn, it was much easier to have that lay flat. Now, if you're finding that your hat is doming or you want to make sure it doesn't dome, at this point, I recommend taking a piece of cardboard. I have this piece here that I used for another project. Take a piece of cardboard and trace around this portion of your project and then set it aside for later, because then you can use that cardboard to put into the top of your hat to keep it from doming. All right, so we're ready to move into round 5. In round 5, we're going to work all of our stitches in the back loop only. So I'm going to move my stitch marker out of the way here, and we'll take a look at the tops of our stitches. You can see that each stitch forms a V along the top of our work, and each V is comprised of 2 strands. There's one that's closest to you, which is the front loop, and the one that's furthest from you, which is the back loop. When we work our stitches in the back loop only, we insert our hook through the top of the stitch to pick up only that back loop, and then we complete our stitch as we normally would. So we're going to work a back loop only, single crochet into each stitch around. So we're going to insert our hook under the back loop only and single crochet. And then we'll move up our stitch marker. And then again in the next stitch, back loop only and single crochet. And again under the back loop only and single crochet. So we're doing this in each stitch around. At the end, you'll still have 24 stitches. So if you'd like to pause your video and meet me back here at the end of round 5, I'll show you then how to move into round 6. All right, so I'm back and we're ready to move into round 6. Now rounds 6, 7, and 8 are all done the same way. We're just going to work 1 single crochet into each stitch around. So we'll move our stitch marker out of the way and we're back to working under both loops of our stitch, and we're just going to single crochet. Move up our stitch marker. And again, we're just going to work 1 single crochet into each stitch around. So if you'd like to pause your video and do rounds 6, 7, and 8, working 1 single crochet into each stitch around. Remember to move your stitch marker up at the beginning of each round, and I'll meet you back here in just a moment to show you how we're going to move in to round 9. All right, so we're back and we're at the end of round 8. And when we're moving into round 9, we're going to change our colors. So if you've already done the last stitch of round 8, like I have, we're just going to have to take that stitch out here in order to do our color change. So we're going to work into the last stitch of round 8, like we normally would. And then we're going to drop our old color, and then we're going to grab our new color. We're going to grab our new color and we're going to lay it over the hook like so. Then we're going to pull the new color through both loops on our hook to complete the stitch with the new color. Then I'm going to give my old color a little tug and we're going to continue working with the new color. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave my old color attached and I'm going to leave it inside the hat while I work, because we're only going to be working 2 rounds in this new color. And this way I can just carry my yarn color up the inside of the hat and I don't have to weave in any extra ends. All right, so just leave it hanging on the inside of your hat unless you prefer to cut it. So let's get our stitch marker out of the way. And then for rounds 9 and 10, we're just working 1 single crochet into each stitch around. So we're just going to take our new color and single crochet in the first stitch, place our stitch marker, and then just as we have in previous rounds, we're just going to work 1 single crochet into each stitch around. If you'd like, you can crochet over the yarn tail from your new color or weave it in later. Right. So if you'd like to pause your video and work rounds 9 and 10 in working 1 single crochet into each stitch across, I'll meet you back here when there's 1 stitch left to do in round 10, because we're going to change colors back to our original colors. So I'll meet you back here with 1 stitch left to work in round 10. All right, so we are at the end of round 10 here, and we have 1 stitch left to do, and we are changing colors back to our black yarn. So I'm going to insert my hook into that very last stitch, yarn over with the current color, and then I'm going to yarn over with the old color. And now, as I mentioned before, this is still attached. So what we're going to do is just gently pull yarn over. We're not going to pull too tightly on that, and just finish your stitch with color C, or which is the black yarn. So now we're ready to move on and work on round 11. Now I'm going to move my stitch marker out of the way, and before we move on, we can cut our yarn for our pink or red or whatever color you're using for your band here, and leave a yarn tail about 4 to 6 inches. And then at this point, you can either crochet over the yarn tail or weave it in, whatever your preference is. I'm going to crochet over mine in this case, so it's not in our way. So for round 11, we are working all of our stitches in the front loop only. So once again, take a look at the tops of our stitches, those 2 strands. The one closest to us is the front loop only. So to work into the front loop only, we insert our hook up and under that front loop, and then we complete our stitch as we normally would. So to start round 11, we're going to work 1 single crochet into each of the first 3 stitches. So front loop only, single crochet, then we're going to put our stitch marker into that stitch. And then again, front loop only, single crochet, and again, front loop only, single crochet. Now we're going to work a single crochet increase. And now when you're doing that in the front loop only, you're doing it the same way we were doing our increases before. You're just working under the front loop. So up and under the front loop, 1 single crochet, back into the same stitch under that front loop, and single crochet. And so what we've done is we've done a pattern repeat. And if you're following along with the written version of the pattern as well, you'll see that it says 3 single crochet followed by a single crochet increase. And that's what we've just done. 3 single crochets followed by an increase. We're going to repeat this a total of 6 times around. So we won't have to do it 5 more times. So let's do it again together. Front loop only, single, 2, and 3. And then we're going to do our single crochet increase. There's 1, back into the same stitch, and there's 2. And we'll do it again together. 1 single crochet, 2, and 3, followed by a single crochet increase. So if you'd like to pause your video and continue to repeat that pattern, 3 single crochets followed by a single crochet increase, at the end of this round, you should have 30 stitches. I'm going to finish mine, and I'll meet you back here in just a moment. All right, so we're ready to move into round 12. Now you'll notice that this part of your hat that from the last round is starting to kind of fold outwards, and that's totally normal because this is the brim of our hat. So to start round 12, we're going to move our stitch marker out of the way, and then we're going to work 1 single crochet into the first stitch. Then we're going to grab our stitch marker and place it into that stitch. Then we're going to work 1 single crochet into the next stitch, followed by single crochet increase into this next stitch. There's 1, back into the same stitch, and there's 2. And now we're going to work 1 single crochet into each of the next 4 stitches. 1, and 4, and now we're going to work a single crochet increase into this next stitch. So that is our pattern repeat. It's 4 single crochets followed by a single crochet increase, and we need to do this 4 more times. So we'll do it one more time together. 1 single crochet into each of the first 4 stitches. So there's 1 and 4, followed by a single crochet increase. So if you'd like to pause your video and do that 2 more times, you should have 2 stitches left to be worked in this round, and I'll meet you back here in just a moment to show you what we're doing with those. So we have 2 stitches left to be worked here in round 12, so we're just going to work 1 single crochet into each of these stitches. At the end of round 12, you should have 36 stitches around. So now we're moving into round 13. I'm going to move my stitch marker out of the way here. And now we have a pattern repeat that we're going to do, and it's 5 single crochets. So that's 1 in each of the first 5 stitches, followed by an increase. So let's do that together. We're going to work 1 single crochet into that first stitch, move up our marker, and then 1 single crochet into each of the next 4 stitches. 3, 4. So you should have 5 single crochets so far. Then we're going to work a single crochet increase into the next stitch. And that's your pattern repeat completed. So there's 5 single crochets followed by an increase. And we need to do this 5 more times. So let's do it again together. 1 single crochet into each of the first 5 stitches. There's 1, and 5, followed by a single crochet increase. All right, so if you'd like to pause your video and do that until the end of the round, at the end of the round you should have 42 stitches. So I'll meet you back here in just a few moments. All right, so I just finished round 13 and we have 42 stitches around the brim of our hat, and we're ready to finish off. So I'm going to grab my scissors and cut a yarn tail that's at least 6 inches long. And then I'm going to pull that yarn all the way through my last stitch. Then I'm going to grab my tapestry needle and thread my yarn end onto the tapestry needle. And then we're going to do a technique that's called the invisible join or invisible finish. And what it's going to do, I'm going to get rid of this stitch marker for a moment, is it's going to help us minimize that step between our last stitch and our first stitch of the round. So we're going to take our tapestry needle and take a look at our stitches. This is the first stitch of the round here. We're going to skip that stitch and insert our needle under both loops of the second stitch. And we're going to pull our needle through to the inside of the work and pull that yarn tail so that way it lays flat against the front loop of your last or your first stitch of the round. Because what we're going to do is we're going to replicate the look of that stitch with our yarn tail. So we're going to take a look at our stitches, identify the last stitch here, and we're going to insert our needle through the top of the stitch and under the back loop only. So up through the top, under the back loop, through to the back of the fabric, and pull the yarn until it lays flat and it looks like that first stitch. You can kind of mess with it a little bit, kind of give it a little tug with your hands so it looks as natural as possible. And now that has totally minimized the look of that step. So now you can just weave in your ends and you'd be all done. Don't forget the end from your magic circle, and you're all done. Your mini top hat for your snowman. Now, as I already touched on, if you wanted to make sure that the top of your hat doesn't dome, then you can use some cardboard for that. And so for my big hat here, my jumbo snowman's hat, I cut a piece of cardboard here. And then if you have some fabric glue or some hot glue, I would just coat the top here and then place it inside your hat, inside the top. You may have to trim it to make sure it fits properly, but then you have a nice flat top to your hat and it will just sit in there nicely. I prefer hot glue over the fabric glue, but use whatever you have handy or whatever you prefer. So that's it for today. I hope that you enjoyed making your little mini top hat for your snowman. If you did, please hit that like button and please consider subscribing to this channel. If you like free crochet patterns, please check out my blog, theloopylamb.com, where I've got hundreds of free crochet patterns, many of which have step-by-step tutorials just like this one. Thanks so much for watching, friends. Happy crocheting, and I'll see you next time.